Hello, I'm back with another video, and today I'm going to talk about a band I think I haven't even mentioned before yet on my channel, although they were or still are a very important band to me. Oasis. It's the Gallagher brothers, the band Oasis. The thing is, between, I would say, 1994, 1995 and 2004, 2005, I think they were, alongside the Beatles of course, my favorite band and the most important band to me. Especially the lineup, the first lineups between 94 and 98. At that time, they were really close to the Beatles in terms of my favorite bands. So I was a huge fan, and I guess I'm still a fan. It's like your favorite football club. You never stop being a fan, although maybe your football club is relegated or something like that. And Oasis are kind of relegated. They split up, and in my opinion, they split up too late. That you will see in this ranking video, I'm not too fond of the albums they made after 2000. But anyway, to me it's interesting after all those years to get back in touch with them through this video. And this is going to be my video ranking my top 50 favorite Oasis songs. And starting off with number 50 is one of those songs after the year 2000, Little by Little. Here I got the single. This was probably one of the last singles I bought by them. Even Chemistry was the last album where I really was still hoping that the magic could be brought back to me. And some songs on that album did that to me. There's some good songs. I think it's a better album than the album before, Standing on the Shoulder of Giants. Little by Little, I think, was the third single of the album, and they put out two versions of it. One is backed with She's Love, also sung by Noel Gallagher, and the other one is with a live version of Columbia. I think it's a bit like, it's a not so good attempt at Don't Look Back in Anger. 5 years later or 7 years later, it's a poor man's Don't Look Back in Anger, but still it's a very good song. I think all of the top 50 Oasis songs, you could say, are very good songs in my opinion. After number 50 it would get weaker, but we're starting with a strong song, and it gets better from here on. The next, number 49, is the second Oasis single. From the early singles, in my opinion, by far the weakest, but still interesting song, Shaker Maker. It's the first Oasis song with kind of funny lyrics. It's a bit psychedelic. The melody, of course, is, not the melody, the arrangement is nicked from the New Seekers and I'd Like to Teach the World to Sing. I think the chord structure is nicked from Flying by the Beatles. I think Noel Gallagher even admitted to that. The second verse has great lyrics. The Mr. Sifter sold me songs when I was just 16. Now he stops at traffic lights, but only when they're green. Sifters was the record shop where Noel Gallagher bought most of his records when he was a young fella. Number 48 is a B-side from the Great Whatever single, Christmas '94 single. It's Half the World Away, influenced. Influenced, when you're talking about Oasis, it's often a bit more than just influenced. It's really, nicked. This is, of course, let's say, influenced by the Burt Bacharach song This Guy's in Love with You. I think one of Noel Gallagher's favorite songs. And it's a great song. It would have needed more production. I think that's the reason why it was relegated to B-side, because it's not fully developed, but the melody is great, the lyrics feel honest and are good. That's Half the World Away. 47 is maybe the only or one of two songs from my least favorite Oasis album, Don't Believe the Truth. I think the album title is probably the best thing about the album. And it's the opener, Turn Up the Sun. So after, when I bought this album and I heard the first song, I thought, wow, this is going to be a great Oasis album. But yeah, the rest of the album didn't do much for me, with 2 or 3 exceptions. Turn Up the Sun, I think, Turn Up the Sun. It's the only song that's not written by either Liam or Noel in the complete top 50 list. It's my favorite Andy Bell Oasis song. Andy Bell wrote some great songs with his other bands, Hurricane, Mark One, and Ride, of course, shoegazing band Ride. I think he was never really it's hard to say, but he and Gam Archer, they never really, in my opinion, did fit with Oasis. Also Gam Archer with Heavy Stereo. I think they were better with their own bands in a way, and all of a sudden you had 3 lead guitar players in the band, and one had to play sometimes lead and rhythm guitar, the other one, Andy Bell, had to play bass. And I think after Bonehead and Gixie left, they should have brought in a real bass player who's just a bass player and a good rhythm guitar player, so that Noel would have could have still be the lead guitarist in the band, because I think that's something that Oasis fans missed from this lineup, that Noel wrote less and played less lead guitar. But Turn Up the Sun is a great song, a great opener. Also the live versions, some of them are on YouTube, are great, so that's a good song. 46 is the bonus track, I think you could call it bonus track. It's just on the vinyl from What's the Story, Morning Glory, Bonehead's Bank Holiday, one of the more funnier songs, kind of a Ringo song for Bonehead to sing. But Bonehead, I think he was too nervous. He was very nervous on the day they recorded it, and so he did what he always did when he was nervous. He went to the pub and got massively drunk, and then he wasn't able to sing it. So Noel Gallagher helps out on lead vocals, but it's a good, it's not I wouldn't say it's a great song, but it's a good song. It's a very good song. 45 is also one of the, Oasis weren't famous for their funny songs or for their witty songs, but Dixie's Dinner is also one of their more funnier songs. Their funny songs always seem to me like Noel Gallagher is trying to write a song for Ringo Starr in the Beatles. And Dixie's Dinner is one of those songs. Dixie was the singer from the band Smaller, and after that song, I think Dixie wrote a song called Noel's Nose. That's the most interesting trivia about that song. 44 now, all the witty, the funny songs in a row. It's also from definitely maybe Married with Children. I think some people always thought or think that this is Noel writing about Liam, that Liam is that arrogant person, the first person narration in the song, but I think it's about Noel himself. It's what his ex-girlfriend, at that time ex-girlfriend, said to him, when they split up. She says things like, "You think you're so fantastic and you're so bright," and I think that's her talking to Noel. So it's a bit, it has some irony about himself. Up in the Sky is next. 43, also from Definitely Maybe. It's a bit influenced, one could say, by the mid-60s psychedelic Beatles songs like Paperback Writer or Rain. Great song. 42 is Gas Panic. This is next to Don't Believe the Truth, my least favorite Oasis album, Standing on the Shoulder of Giants. I think it went downhill for them when they released that album. But Gas Panic is one of the best songs from that album. I think it's about Noel Gallagher's, he used to have panic attacks when he was young, and this is probably autobiographical about that. 41, this is probably the last of the funny Oasis songs is also from What's the Story, Morning Glory. She's Electric, another of those Ringo songs. You know, it's the chord structure and parts of the melody remind me very much of With a Little Help from My Friends. Then next we have number 40, Born on a Different Cloud. This is the first of the Liam Gallagher written songs in that list. It's great Liam Gallagher song. I think Johnny Marr plays the lead guitar or the slide guitar solo in the middle, but I could be wrong because in my Pet Shop Boys video I said that I think that Johnny Marr played the solo in the Pet Shop Boys song before, but after that video I looked at the booklet and that was wrong. I made a mistake there, so I'm not so sure if it's true. I could look it up, but I think Johnny Marr plays the solo on that song. I can't find it there. But I think it was Johnny Marr who played the solo. 39 is Hey Now from What's the Story, Morning Glory, one of the more overlooked songs from their most successful album. Great lyrics. I think it's a bit like a Neil Young song from the late 70s in my opinion. It's a very good song. Next is 38, Stop Crying Your Heart Out, also from the Heathen Chemistry album, where Born on a Different Cloud is from. This is one of their last big anthems, anthems that work. This is a great Oasis anthem. Next we have 37, Stand By Me, another great anthem. That's from their big anthem era, Be Here Now, from the overblown stadium rock era, but it's a great song, Stand By Me. Good lyrics, there are parts in the lyrics that aren't that good, but there are parts that I like what's it like? Times are hard when things have got no meaning. That's a great verse, I think. Stand By Me. Next is number 36, Underneath the Sky, B-side from I think the Don't Look Back in Anger single, early 1996. That's a great, another Neil Young kind of influenced song, I think, but one of their best B-sides, I think. Oasis always, not always, but during the 90s were a great B-sides band, or great. That's why I have all the singles, because some of the best songs, especially in the 90s, were on B-sides. 34 is an A-side, All Around the World. Maybe a bit too long, to release a single A-side that's 10 minutes long, is maybe not the most clever thing to do, but it was number one in England, so it worked. Great. This was a very early Oasis composition. I think they wrote it. Noel Gallagher wrote it like 1992 or 1993. There's some rehearsal room footage from even before Definitely Maybe, where they rehearsed that song. Great song. 33. From now on, I think all songs are really great songs. Excellent songs. It's a B-side from You Know What I Mean. It's Stay Young. What can you say? This is very, very good B-side. 32 that's the second. I think we will have 3 Liam Gallagher written songs in the complete list. This is the second one, Songbird. That's the first of 2 Liam Gallagher songs that were single A-sides, and rightfully so. This was one of the best songs from Heathen Chemistry. I think Heathen Chemistry is by far the best Liam Gallagher album in terms of songwriting. I think all his 3 songs on that album really, are as good or even better than some of Noel's songs on that album. Next one is a bit of a rare song, or a bit of a hidden, A song that just die-hard fans might be familiar with. It was never released on a single or an album by Oasis. It's from the Goal soundtrack, from that movie from the late 90s, Who Put the Weight of the World on My Shoulders. This is a great Noel Gallagher written and Noel Gallagher sung song. You know, I never really understood why he didn't put it on an album from that era, like Don't Believe the Truth. You know, I think that would have been the best song on Don't Believe the Truth, to be honest. Next one is from Be Here Now, their crazy cocaine era album. It's also one of those songs. It's getting better, man. I think you can hear Patsy Kensit and Mike Matthews, the wives of Noel and Liam at that time, sing background vocals on it. That was, of course, one of those songs that was accused to be overlong and too many layers of guitars and too much distortion. That was the phase when they really when there was probably too much cocaine involved and they were, more partying than than working on their music. But it's for what it is. It's a great song of that era, and I really like Be Here Now. I really like the way this album is overblown. I think they could only do that once. They had to strip down for the albums after that, but for what it's worth, Be Here Now is a very underrated. It's a great album in my opinion. Next is 29. This is Roll With It, the great Battle of the Bands single. I've also got Country House by Blur here. Those were the two songs that were released the same week, and Blur won the Battle of the Bands, as it was called, and Oasis were number 2 with their song. Both songs are probably not the best songs of those two bands, especially at the time, but both songs, are great, and those were really exciting times. It was a bit silly, at the time, it was very exciting, this who's going to win thing, but soon afterwards, it became clear that it's a bit silly to have Battle of the Bands. But, I really enjoyed those times. The next one is 28. This is probably the biggest classic yet. This is, I would say, in most Oasis fans' top 10. For me, it's 28, Cigarettes and Alcohol. Great single, number 7 in the charts, I think it was. Autumn 1994 release. Great song, great lyrics. The riff, of course, nicked from Get It On by T-Rex, but a great song. 27 is a B-side from the Some Might Say single. It's Talk Tonight, a song Noel wrote after he one of the first times he left the band. He left them for like a week or something, but I think they played the first show in LA, and even Ringo Starr attended the show, and it was a very important show in their opinion. And the others in the band, especially Bonehead and Liam, were totally drunk and on drugs, and Noel was very angry after that show and left the band for a week. And Talk Tonight is a song reflecting on that. Very good acoustic song. 26 is Cast No Shadow from What's the Story Morning Glory, dedicated to Richard Ashcroft of The Verve. Great, at that time all their songs, especially the anthems, were huge, great, epic kind of songs. This was one of those. And now it's the top 25. I think from now on, every song still, I'm not listening to the band that much anymore. They were more like a youth thing to me. I've grown out of it a bit, but those 25 songs are still, ingrained in my memory, and I still love them. I think those are great songs. Noel Gallagher is definitely one of the one of the best songwriters of the past 30 years, in my opinion, and especially his work in the 90s. And what I also wanted to tell you, I forgot in the first episodes, the reason, bit of the reason why I'm even doing that Oasis themed video now is that this channel will have a sort of an Oasis phase this autumn, because of course I think in November the Knepworth thing is coming out, you know, the Knepworth gigs from 1996, and I've ordered my copy of the big deluxe set already, and I hope I can do a sort of unboxing video, my first unboxing video, when it arrives in mid-November, and then I will review it, of course. And so this is more like an introduction to those Oasis videos on the channel. Yeah, and let's move on. Number 25 is the opener from the very first Oasis album, Rock and Roll Star. You know, this song sums up everything Noel Gallagher wanted to be at that time, and what Liam Gallagher eventually would become, and what Oasis would stand for in those first years. It's a great rock and roll song. Still 24, I think this is the only song in the top 25 that's like a more recent Oasis song. It's from the last album. I think it's the only, yeah, it must be from the only song in the top 50 list from their last album, Dig Out Your Soul. I don't even have the album. I think at that time when it came out I wasn't that much of a fan anymore, so I downloaded it. So I don't even have the single, and I think it was the last single, the last Oasis single, Falling Down. I think, you know, Dig Out Your Soul was, in my opinion, better than Standing on the Shoulder of Giants and Don't Believe the Truth, and about as good as Even Chemistry. So from the later albums, probably my favorite album. You know, it was a bit of return to form, and Falling Down is my favorite song on that album. You know, that's a song that's hinting in the direction that Noel would go into with his solo career. I think he has a very respectable solo career, and Falling Down is, you know, it shows that he was at that time already a bit tired of, you know, the typical Oasis fans and his brother, you know, the fans and Liam, they wanted to prolong that you know, very traditional, one could say conservative guitar rock direction, and Noel, I think, wanted to branch out, wanted to try out different things, you know, more electronic music influences and things like that. And then Falling Down, you know, if in an alternate universe, I think it would have been cool if future Oasis albums after Dig Out Your Soul would have explored this direction more, but you know, so we ended up with good but not amazing Noel Gallagher solo albums in that direction. But Falling Down, great song. 23 is from Even Chemistry, and it's my favorite song written by Liam Gallagher, Better Man, the last song from that album. I think it's one of the most underrated songs on that album and one of the most underrated Oasis songs. I think, yeah, I had 3 Liam Gallagher written songs in the top 50, and those were all the 3 songs from that album. I think this is, I said it in the previous episode, I think this is, from a songwriting point of view, Liam Gallagher's best album. I think his songwriting matches in quality Noel's songwriting from that album, and Better Man is, you know, it's a great rock song. Just a great rock song. 22 is another great rock, or maybe even punk rock song. It's a B-side from the Some Might Say single. Is it here? Yeah. It's Head Shrinker. You know, Some Might Say is probably their best single as a whole, as an EP, as a 4-track EP. As you will see, all 4 tracks from that EP made my top 50. We already had Talk Tonight. Now we have Head Shrinker, and the other two will come soon enough. Great song. Head Shrinker 21 is Hello, the opener from the most successful album from What's the Story? Morning Glory. Here we got the CD version. That's how I bought it at the time, because vinyl wasn't really a thing in the mid 90s. As you can see, I bought it pretty early on because there's still hype stickers on the albums. Great song. Hello, very very good song. And the thing is, when I bought Morning Glory, Wonderwall was the single that came out about the same time as Morning Glory, and I was familiar with Wonderwall before I listened to the album. And I was a bit confused when I started the album and the first chords you hear are the Wonderwall chords, and I thought, what? It's supposed to be track number 3. Will every song on that album sound like Wonderwall? But of course, it was just an introduction to Hello. Great song. Unfortunately, nicked from a Gary Glitter song. Gary Glitter doesn't really have the best image nowadays, but at that time he was just a glam rock star from the 70s, and it's a great sample of his 70s song that's also called Hello, or I think Hello, I'm Back Again. Number 20 is, from now on, I think every song is really, in my opinion, it's a huge classic. The next song isn't really, for many people it's not a classic, but to me this was when I bought this album on the day it came out, Be Here Now, which was such a big album release at that time. I think it was the last of the big rock and roll releases, like a Led Zeppelin album or a Beatles album in the 60s and 70s. This was really a huge event worldwide, and especially in Britain. And I already was familiar with the first song from that album, which was Do You Know What I Mean, the single that was released a month before the album came out. So My Big Mouth is number 20, was the first really new song I've heard when I bought that album, and it blew me away. That album, at first it got good reviews, and then people realized, oh, it's a bit too long, it's a bit overblown, it doesn't really have good lyrics and no direction, and it's the cocaine album. But I still think it's a great album, and My Big Mouth sums it up perfectly. It's such a wild and silly song in a way. It's a typical Be Here Now song. I really liked it. Number 19 is maybe the biggest classic we've had yet. It's usually, I would say, it's probably most other Oasis fans' top 5 favorite Oasis. It's one of those 2 or 3 Oasis songs that also non-Oasis fans know, and many of those non-Oasis fans even like. It's Don't Look Back in Anger, probably the biggest anthem. I like it too, From now on, number 19, as I said, I really love all those songs, but I was never that big of a fan. It was, when I first listened to Morning Glory, Hello, then Roll With It and Wonderwall, I thought, wow, what a great album. And then when I first listened to Don't Look Back in Anger and it wasn't yet a hit or a single, I was like, oh, this is the first not so good song on the album. But of course, I was proven wrong. It's of course a classic. But maybe I wasn't used to Noel singing at that time. Noel, up until that time, Noel was usually only on B-sides, heard as a lead vocalist, so it was a bit like, oh, I want to hear another Liam song. But it's a classic. Number 18 is the single that linked definitely maybe with Morning Glory, the Christmas 94 single, Whatever, and it's the A-side, Whatever. That was the first, that was a precursor to Wonderwall, probably the first attempt of of sounding really Beatley, like the Beatles. Oasis were often accused, especially by people who don't really know many Oasis songs, that they sound like the Beatles. They didn't really sound like the Beatles on the first 2 albums, especially on the first album. But this was the first attempt, to sound like the Beatles. And, they succeed. It's very much in the style of a song like All You Need Is Love. It's of course not as good as All You Need Is Love. It doesn't have, the lyrical weight, probably. But it's a great melody, and it's from a time when Liam still had a great voice. After Morning Glory, his voice very quickly deteriorated, but this was when he was in his prime, that late 94 to mid 95 voice was his best voice. Great song. 18 is, one of the first songs when it was pretty obvious his voice has suffered a lot. This was, you know what I mean? The first single, the lead-off single from Be Here Now. When I think about it, when I first listened to that song, it was the first thing I noticed was, oh, he sounds different, and I don't like the way he sounds compared to before. But still, this is such a glorious, big song. At that time you didn't know that the rest of the album would even be bigger and more monstrous. But here it's alright. That's you were used to songs like that. The song Morning Glory or the song, some might say, were also overblown with loud electric guitars or Columbia, and those were all great songs. And this is also a great song. And yeah, it was it was one of the reasons why the release of Be Here Now became such a huge thing, because after that song everyone was hyped up. I think big #1 hit. And it has the same chord structure as Wonderwall. It's basically the same song, but with distorted electric guitars instead of acoustic guitars. The next one is, I've just mentioned it, the title song from Morning Glory. That's a great, loud song. I think the words don't mean much. It's very, again, maybe very cocaine inspired lyrics. But it's such a great noise. It's just an Oasis were at their peak. They didn't try to sound like the Beatles with 2 or 3 exceptions. They just wanted to be a loud guitar band, and Morning Glory is a great example for that. Morning Glory, the next one is number 15. Some might say, I just wanted to say, now we've got all 4 songs from that great EP, but there's still one missing. There's a B-side that I even prefer to. Some might say, at that time, I think many people, even reviewers, also wrote that other song that we haven't had yet should have been the A-side, but some might say still, they should have made a double A-side with the other song that will come soon, and some might say, great song. So I might say. Next one is number 14, another great classic, but wasn't issued as a single. I think it was, there's a video for it. I think it was a limited single, like in Japan or something like that, or in the US. Champagne Supernova. This is a song. I'm really a bit worried about that unboxing video I want to do in November for the Networth live album, because they just released as a teaser one song from that Networth live album on YouTube with video, and it's their performance of Champagne Supernova, and I think it sounds terrible, So I'm not really looking forward to Networth that much, and I've heard bootlegs from the Networth show, 20 years ago, and I think the Main Road show was much better, and that was of course already released in the 90s, the Networth show on the There and Then VHS. So maybe the Networth release will surprise me, but that wasn't really good. I think that performance with John Squire of the Stone Roses on lead guitar, and he doesn't really do a very good job on lead guitar during that performance, but Champagne Supernova nevertheless is a great song. Number 13 is one of the best. I think it must be one of the at least top 5 B-sides. It's from I think it's the first B-side we have had yet from the Wonderwall single, from the most successful Oasis single. It's the Master Plan. the Master Plan, or the B-side compilation was also called the Master Plan for a good reason. It's a great song. You know, on my Pet Shop Boys video, what I forgot to mention was I mentioned the song Survivors by the Pet Shop Boys as one of my favorite Pet Shop Boys songs. I think Survivors is, you know, usually I say Oasis are stealing melodies or nicking songs, but I think the Pet Shop Boys nicked the melody from the Master Plan for their song Survivors. So this time it was the opposite way. Number 12 is also a B-side. That's the only B-side from it's the only B-side I think in the top 50 from after the 90s, from after the Master Plan compilation. It's the B-side to Go Let It Out. I prefer to Go Let It Out. I don't think... Yeah, we had Gas Panic. I think we had one song from Standing on the Shoulder of Giants. But Let's All Make Believe would have been by far the best song on Standing on the Shoulder of Giants. That's a great song and one of the last really great vocal performances by Liam, in my opinion. That's a bit like... Yeah, it's a bit like Acquiesce. But yeah, it's a mix of Wonderwall and Acquiesce. I think that song, very underrated, overlooked song in my opinion. 11, another B-side. We have lots of B-sides now in the top 10 and top 15. It's from there it is, from the last one. No, not the last one. I think there's still one missing, but it's from the Whatever single, from that standalone single. What is it? It's Good to Be Free. Great. Also, maybe a bit underrated, overlooked song. It's Good to Be Free. And now the top 10. I've mentioned it just 1 minute ago. Now we have had every song from the Some Might Say single EP. It's Acquiesce. Great. You know, what can you say? This is one of the best B-sides, maybe of all time, but at least from the 1990s, one of the best B-sides. It's the most famous B-side by Oasis, I think. In my top 10 there will be 2 or 3 other B-sides that I personally like more, but this is of course a kind of classic by Oasis. I think they played it it's one of the songs they played the most often in their live shows. Acquiesce. Number 9 is from Definitely Maybe. In my opinion, the best album. It's Bring It On Down. That's a great, working class punk rock anthem. I think it's the Oasis song that sounds the most like the Sex Pistols. In the early days, they were compared to the Beatles on the one hand, but to the Sex Pistols on the other hand. I think there was even an Enemy headline in 94 or a front page that read the Sex Beatles, the Sex Beatles, and Bring It On Down is, I think it's a song in that vein, and it's great lyrics about being an underdog but still being cool. That's Bring It On Down. Number 8 is also from Definitely Maybe, but not from the CD version, but from the vinyl version. It's the bonus track, Sad Song. That's one of the best ballads. That's also, I said it, I can't remember, I think before the Ever, but this is maybe this is the true precursor to Wonderwall. This is also, of course, very overlooked since it's just on the vinyl edition of Definitely Maybe. This is as you can see, one of my personal favorites. And it's interesting that Liam Gallagher in his solo shows started playing it live 1 or 2 years ago, since it's a no-sung song. I think that's the only time that Liam Gallagher ever in public sang a no-sung song and did a great job. Maybe he should also perform Don't Look Back in Anger or songs like that. It's often said that his vocal range is too limited for those kind of songs, but on Sad Song it really worked. did a great work. So in a way, it would have been even better if also on Definitely Maybe on the original version, maybe with Liam on lead vocals, would have been more of a classic in my opinion, probably. Number 7 is one of the most underrated Oasis songs in my opinion. Much better than the A side, much better than Roll With It. It's Rockin' Chair. One of my favorite vocal performances by Liam, one of my favorite melodies and lyrics by Noel, and for once, great arrangement. That's for once they didn't try to make that overblown loud. It would have been easy with that song to make that typical mid-90s Oasis production with that, as Owen Morris, the producer, called it, brick wall of sound. But here they tried to make it more looser, so it breathes, with the acoustic guitars. It sounds a bit like an R.E.M. song. It sounds a bit like what R.E.M. did on the Automatic for the People album or with Losing My Religion. So it's this could have been as an A side. It would have had probably the same crossover appeal that a song like Wonderwall or Losing My Religion had. In my opinion, it would have been one of the most commercial sounding Oasis songs, and it's a great song. Next one, number 6, is from Definitely Maybe again. It's Columbia. Bit controversial story about how that song was written, because there are several people who claim to have written parts of it, because The Real People, a band from Liverpool that were friends of Oasis in the early 90s, they recorded some demos for Oasis before they got signed, or after they got signed, but before they started recording their first album properly. And the Real People, or the songwriters from The Real People, claim that they collaborated with Noel Gallagher on the music of that song. And to make it even more complicated, Liam Gallagher, who wasn't a songwriter at that time, who wasn't known as a songwriter, his first official Oasis song was Little James and Standing on the Shoulder of Giants 6 years later. But Liam Gallagher claims he wrote the lyrics or most of the lyrics of that song. And I always thought, why should he claim that if it's not true? So I think it would be fairer, but no, if it's true, that the songwriting credits should be shared at least with Liam, but maybe even with The Real People. It's a great song. It's one of those. This is a precursor to Morning Glory, to the title track of Morning Glory. It's also, the title Columbia is a reference to their favorite drug at the time, and it sounds like that. It sounds like they were on that drug at the time they recorded it. Number 5 is also from Definitely Maybe. It's the great ballad, maybe the only love song, the only ballad on that album, Slide Away. I really prefer some live versions they did. My favorite version of that song is from the Live by the Sea, or Live by the Sea. It's a pun. I would say Live by the Sea. VHS, I had it on VHS back then. I never bought it on DVD, but you can still watch it. I can still watch it. We all can still watch it on YouTube. Slide Away from the Live by the Sea, or Live by the Sea. Live said, this is my favorite live performance of all time of any Oasis song ever. That Slide Away at that venue in Southend. What a live version. The studio version is also good. It's the only song produced by Dave Batchelor. They recorded Definitely Maybe twice. They weren't happy with Dave Batchelor's production, so they recorded it again with Mark Coyle, the live sound engineer. But Slide Away was the only song from those early sessions with Dave that survived, and it's, what a great song. Great lyrics, great singing, great melody. Number 4 is a B-side. Is it my favorite B-side? Yeah, this is my favorite B-side. It's also from that era. Maybe they should have put it on Definitely Maybe, but I can see why they didn't put it on Definitely Maybe. I'm talking about Listen Up from Cigarettes and Alcohol. That would have been the third song on that album, or maybe the third or fourth song on that album with a drum intro. It would be a bit strange, an album with 11 songs and 4 of those songs start the same way with the drums. You know, Tony McCarroll, the first drummer, was a bit limited, so he couldn't play many drum patterns. He only had like a one-trick pony. But what he did, you know, this kind of drumming that he did on those 4 or 5 songs is, you know, it's probably my favorite drumming in Oasis. In a way, I prefer Tony McCarroll to Alan White and all the others, even Ringo's son, Zach Starkey. So in a way, he was my favorite Oasis drummer, and the lineup, this early lineup was my favorite Oasis lineup. Listen Up, of course, starts also with the drums. It's like Supersonic or Live Forever and all those songs. Maybe my favorite lyrics by Noel Gallagher on that song is very, you know, he was often accused for writing silly lyrics that don't mean anything, shallow lyrics, but this is really, you know, a philosophical song. It's like, there's, you know, Oasis always said we are as good as the Beatles and we want to be like the Beatles, and that was always a bit, I never liked it. I thought that's silly. But on that song, you know, this is like a John Lennon lyric from the late 60s. It's really, on this song he really delivered as a lyricist and as a songwriter. The melody is also great, and Liam singing, one of my 2 or 3. You know, all those 5 top songs on my list, what they all have in common is they are among my at least top 10 favorite vocal performances by Liam Gallagher. And Listen Up is one of those. And the next 3 songs are also among my favorite Liam Gallagher vocal performances. The next one is the debut single, Supersonic. Here it is, Supersonic. That was, you know, we are lucky that this song even, you know, materialized, because they wanted to record, I think, Bring It On Down, which is also in my top 10. And Noel Gallagher had like 60 minutes or something like that before the session would start, and he was in the studio and he wrote it on the spot. He wrote it in 60 minutes. Then they recorded it in, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 hours, so very quick. And you know, they went in to record Bring It On Down as their first single. But then, of course, they immediately realized that this brand new song that they wanted to maybe put on as a B-side is much better, you know, and it sounds like, it sounds that quick, you know, that the lyrics are nonsense, of course, and it sounds like a very quick song, but that's the quality of it. It's, you know, like an early Beatles song. That's, again, one of those songs where a Beatle comparison isn't silly. It's you know, the spontaneous energy of that song is great. Liam singing is great. The guitar riff is great. Great song. And the first, you know, the number 2 and 1, you know, I think most Oasis fans or even casual listeners will by now know what 2 songs these are. They're probably the 2 most famous Oasis songs. And my number 2 is the biggest hit, Wonderwall. I think it's not cool in Oasis diehard fan circles to rank this high, and if you hate Oasis, it's maybe even more uncool, because this is a very overplayed song, and it's not really a representation what Oasis stand for, but it's a perfect pop song in my opinion. It's you know, you can't argue with it. It's perfect melody. It's one of those songs when Noel Gallagher really was Noel Gallagher, and he didn't try to steal something from someone. This is 100% Noel Gallagher song in a way, and it's one of the best songs of the 1990s in my opinion. But the number 1 song, of course, is even better. Maybe my number 1 song is the best song of the 1990s. I don't know. It's of course Live Forever from Definitely Maybe. It's also one of the first songs Noel Gallagher ever wrote. He wrote it 2 years before he joined Oasis. and I think the song itself was like his ticket to Oasis, because that was the song he played to the others when he wanted to get into the group and be the songwriter of the group. And after they heard him play it on acoustic guitar, they immediately accepted his wish that he wanted to join the group, and the second thing he wanted was to be the sole songwriter of the group. And after he played that song, they agreed to that. And yeah, it's a classic. It's maybe the best song of the 1990s. Thank you for watching.